Hello guys, welcome back to Aurelia. In the past 20 episodes, the city was expanded around the big city park, which we built towards the end of those 20 episodes as well. Episode 40, of course, showed all this progress, so go check it out if you haven't already. In this episode 41, it's now time to go somewhere else and start some sort of third season of building the Aurelia city. For today, and a couple of more episodes to come as well, we will focus on the area located right here, further away from the downtown in the direction of the park. I built just a simple road to this place, maybe all the way back in episode 1, because I already wanted to build some nice high-density futuristic suburbs in here, as the terrain felt really suited for something like that. But in the end, this place will change into one of the largest projects I ever did in City Skylines, so let's go see what it's all about. So whatever's going to happen in this episode is all thanks to one single building from the workshop. It's an airport, but we are not really going to build an airport. So I downloaded this building, well, not really in this state, right, that you can see in here, but I downloaded the building that this sub-building is from the workshop. It's probably the largest building that I saw ever in this game. It's absolutely gigantic. It's almost as big as the whole tile in the game. So really huge building. I really wanted to build an airport, like an actual airport from this building, but it is just way too big for this city. So I kind of wanted to build an airport, but at the same time I don't really still, because the map is not exactly suited for it. There's mountains all around the place, so I would probably need to do all kinds of terraforming and stuff, but it's not exactly, on top of the priority list right now. And especially since that I cannot use this building, which felt absolutely futuristic for the airport, because like I said, it's just way too big. So I'm gonna be searching the workshop still in the future for some nice futuristic looking airport terminals, or maybe buildings that I can just use to create a futuristic looking airport terminal, and then I'm probably going to go and build an airport, but unless I find something like that, I probably won't. All right, so what's exactly happening in here now that we have that out of the way? So this building felt that I just want to use it. If not for the airport, then I really want to use it for something else. Now, I really wanted to try and convert it into procedural objects. I knew right from the start that if I'm going to do that, it's going to be a huge performance drop for the game, because the building has a lot of vertices and all that. So it would probably be lagging super hard when I converted it into procedural objects, not to mention that the conversion itself probably is going to take a couple of minutes. So I did that, and to my surprise, the building was not really there when I converted it into procedural objects. Only the glass outline was in there. So that already told me that the building itself is made from sub-buildings, which basically means that it's glued together from different buildings to form the finished product. So I went into the asset editor, and together with the help of the mod tools mod, I extracted the meshes and textures for all the sub-buildings for this airport building. Now it's the roof, it's the glass domes in here, and also some of the outlines, and obviously the glass outline as well, that you can already have in the game with the standard procedural object conversion, right? So this gave me the idea that I can actually only take the portions of the building that I like and change some of the portions of the building that I don't like, or just flat out don't use them. Now that goes, for example, for the main glass roof of this building, which would otherwise be covering this hole in the center of the entire building. So I completely omitted that sub-building and only use the orange roof and the glass domes on the sides of it, or inside of the glass roof. Oh, sorry, on the orange roof, right? Now, this created a very nice looking space inside this building, and I immediately thought that this entire complex could be probably made into some sort of a self-sustained, I don't know, community, like residential community or something like that, with maybe residential buildings towards the arms, the edges of this entire orange, airport building, and in the middle in here I could probably create some sort of a main transportation hub with offices, shops, and stuff like that, and place all of this in this area where I wanted to build something all the way from the episode 1. I really wanted to build something inside of this place, right? So this building felt like a nice project. I could actually use it to create something like this. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be super practical and, you know, everyone is going to be living in here and, you know, it's like a 100% good urbanistic, you know, solution to, I don't know, suburban high density housing. It's just a cool project to do, right? I just picked this building and thought that it might be a really cool thing to do, that it's going to look really, really good in the screenshots and all that in the cinematics, right? So that's the plan, right? Now, early on, when I was experimenting with all these things, by the way, a lot of these things are going to change. For example, this outline road I'm going to delete later, and the buildings, the spires on the arms of the airport of the orange building is going to change as well. And for example, this was the idea that kind of completely changed this place. I just created an island of this project. I decided to make it into an island because why not? The building already looks like some sort of a island, maybe. Well, not really, but if you think about it, it makes sense. It makes sense to create an island of this city. Now, again, it's obviously not 100% you know, justified to build something like that in some sort of a lake, or maybe the lake was built artificially, part of the building project as well. Who knows? I don't really think about it at this point too much. I just really wanted to create something that's going to look cool, right? So the water completely changed the character of this place, 100%. I deleted the road, the outline road, like I said, so I'm not really even bothering showing you how I built it because I deleted it anyway. And then I changed the appearance or the position of these residential tall buildings. So I only put 2 of them on the very edges of the arms, of the 4 arms. Now, I oriented the building so that the 4 arms are kind of going, you know, away from the square, obviously, and the center arm is going exactly towards the city park. So that's going to be the main entrance of this entire complex, right? The island complex. Now, this means that we're gonna have basically how many? 6 parts of this entire complex. So that's going to be the entrance. Then we're going to have the central square, the public transportation hub, some sort of, and for residential arms. Let's call them that way, okay? Now, this project is absolutely huge, and to be completely honest, these days I'm more focusing on the Altengrad series. So that's why there was the delay between the episode 40 and 41. And also this project, I should probably say it right away, that this project is not going to be finished today. Today I'm only going to build one of these residential arms, and then I'm going to finish the main square. So in the next episode, hopefully, we will take a look at the entrance where I want to build some sort of a gate into, like a fancy looking gate, into this entire complex, and we also need to finish all the other residential arms, so 3 of them, and then just make the places around this lake just finished as well, right? So that's kind of a lot of episodes actually to only cover this entire project, which is nice because it's a large project. It only felt appropriate to split it into more episodes and kind of start the season 3, let's say, of the Aurelia building with it, all right? So let's go back to what's actually happening in here. Like I said, I'm going to only finish one of the residential arms and the main square in today's episode. So we are now right now in one of those residential arms. Now, I should also mention how the public transport is going to work in this entire complex. So we have the train that's going right from the city center. That's going to be some sort of an express way into the downtown of the city, into the rest of the city. And we also need to, because this place is huge, we also need to have some sort of complex transport inside of it, right? So that's obviously trams. Obviously, that's going to be all taken care of with the trams. Now, since this is a futuristic looking project, I decided to do trams without the power cables. So I'm probably going to use some, let's say, battery powered trams, or maybe there's some sort of a super futuristic, I don't know, recharging taking place in here. But as you can see, I don't have any cables in here. It makes it look better, more cleaner, this open space. And I'm also using the special kind of trams that I haven't used yet in the city. They're called, I think, city whales or tram whales, something with whales. I don't really remember the exact name. It's like a double-decker tram, and it actually doesn't have the power collector on the roof as well. So that feels nice because it just doesn't need the cables at all. And it's very short. Also, it can be made longer because of there's like multiple different versions of the tram. I'm using the 3-car version. There can be, I think, a 6-car version as well, but I'm just using this one. You will see it in the cinematics. You will see it very, very shortly, even in the time lapses when I'm going to put it in here. Now, as obviously the entire structure is a procedural object, it made sense that, well, it didn't really make sense, but it is necessary to make pretty much every single building in this place as procedural object as well. So I can customize it, I can fit it underneath the orange roof and just customize everything, like 100% customize it, change the shapes of the buildings and so on. Obviously the orange roof is not very regular, it goes up and down, so we need to have some sort of control over how the buildings, how tall are the buildings and all those kinds of things. So pretty much every single building in here is procedural object, which made it really difficult to work with everything in here. But don't worry, it's actually going to work, because I think I'm going to show it in the time lapses that I am putting those fake buildings, those fake residential and commercial buildings all around this place, hidden underneath all the roofs and underneath the surfaces, so that there's going to be quite a lot of people going around this place already and using this place and living in this place, right? So again, from the time lapses, it's not really all that super obvious, but this place was really difficult to figure out how to build, how to do all the surfaces, how to do, just the basic concepts of this place was really difficult to figure out. But the actual building was not really all that super hard, as you can see, right? So putting down a lot of planters, I don't really want to have this place just artificial looking all that much. So we're gonna have a lot of planters all around the place, a lot of different trees and flowers. Obviously, in these planters, we need to deal with some surfaces. I don't really want to have just the concrete in here, so kind of inspired from the Altengrad series, where I'm always putting down some different surfaces. So that's exactly what we're doing in here as well. And that is almost done. Now, also this thing, watch this. I'm just selecting 1/2 of the detailing in this place, and because this was recorded, or this was built after the recent patch for the Move It mod was released, there is the mirror button with the Move It. So I can only detail 1/2 of this entire place, because this place is going to be symmetrical. Obviously, the entire island is going to be very, very symmetrical. There's going to be all kinds of axes of symmetry in these places. So it's really, really useful, really nice to have this new feature of Move It, which is the mirror. So I can only detail one place, and I don't really need to deal with like spacings and counting exactly the positions where the detailing is, because I can just mirror it and it's going to be exactly in the same position, just on the opposite side of the tracks. In here, for example, I kind of wish that you can see it in here. I have to manually do the mirroring with procedural objects, because there is no mirror with that mod, unfortunately. But if there was, then that would be absolutely huge, and I could probably build this place in half the time. So that would be nice, but I suppose that we should be grateful for what we have with the Move It mod right now. Doing some custom networks in here as well, as you can see, for example, this bridge, because I didn't really want to have the regular tram bridge in here, because also I'm using the special kind of tracks for these trams, and that is the tracks that don't have the sunken part. They are on the same level as the sidewalk, some sort of sidewalk. And if you want to transition it to the normal tracks, then there's like a gap between the tracks, and it looks weird. So I decided to use this one, this road, the same road over the bridge as well. But I obviously had to modify it in the road editor so that it doesn't pull the terrain towards it, right? So I can have it as a bridge, and obviously detailing it with the surface and the railings to form the entire structure of it, and obviously pillars as well. So this is going to just contribute to the entire idea that this place is highly customized, and it's just going to look better. Also, these tracks don't have the cables as well. So there's probably going to be cables, further down these tracks, so the trams can either recharge or something like that, or maybe the trams are like solar powered or whatever, so they don't need to recharge from the cables, or maybe they do, whatever. There's going to be cables further down these tracks, right? And by the way, you can already see the trams that I'm going to use here. It's a change from the washing machine trams that I'm using in the city, but it's a nice one. And obviously putting down all the pedestrian paths, as you could have seen right here. Now this is going to be something cool. I'm going to group all these procedural objects into one group that I'm going to make invisible. And that's going to be very, very necessary. And it's going to be looking very, very strange, but it's going to be necessary for working underneath it and make the magic happen, kind of. So as you can see, I'm using these blank buildings, these two. And unfortunately, for some reason, the commercial one is broken, and it's residential at this point. I'm not sure why, but I'm putting buildings that have these little green squares have the residential capacity of, I think, 50 households. So I'm making it so that on the edges of that open space with the tram, there are actually functioning buildings inside of, or functioning households inside the place. Now, since I didn't really have the blank building working, and I wanted to have some commercial buildings in the center of this place, which is obviously this main central transportation hub, I had to use some existing commercial buildings, high density preferably, commercial buildings in here. So I decided to use this one, for example. It's the vanilla building 4x4 version, and I'm just going to make it hidden inside of those rounded buildings, right? Again, I'm making sure that I see what's happening down here. Obviously, underneath all this, there's roads, there's connections. I'm later going to put even like police stations, fire stations, and all those kinds of things underneath all the surfaces and connect it with all the roads. Now, very important thing for cinematics, I suppose, but even for functionality of this place, is connecting everything with the paths, like you can see here. So making sure that all these tracks are connected together so that people can obviously change from the train that's going to take them here from the downtown, and they can board the trams. Now, by the way, the trams, as you can see here, I don't think I said it yet in the beginning, they are not really going straight through the place, because that would require a crossing for the trams, but they are doing this. So they are there's a curve for the trams, so they are going into the neighboring arms, right? Now, one of this tram line, the one that I already finished, is actually going to continue off this island into the rest of the city. It's probably going to fill the role of let's say, outer ring of the transportation system of the city, and it only makes sense that it's also going to go into the island, so we can bring people from all kinds of directions into the island, and people from the island into the city, for example, towards the future stadium areas, and all those kinds of different places. I was thinking of doing an episode where I'm going to talk about how the Aurelia transportation system works, because it is getting rather large, so it makes sense to talk a bit more about it, but probably not yet, because I still need to finish some important pieces of that infrastructure. Anyway, more surfaces in here and more of those little windows to see underneath all this place. I have put the paths so that the people. It's kind of difficult in this game that you cannot really paint an area where people can walk, but you obviously have to provide like a direct path, right? So it's always going to be so that people are going to follow a straight path. And if you have like a large open space, it's going to be looking weird, because in real life, people are obviously walking all around the place. They are not really following like a one lemming train through a square or something like that. But in City Skylines, unfortunately, they have to follow a certain path. So it's more convenient or more nicer looking if you provide some like obstacles into these open spaces, like for example these windows or planters, so that people are going to not look like they are just avoiding those certain places, but now they are avoiding them because there's something there, right? So it makes more sense to do it like this, to fill these empty squares or plazas with a lot of planters, a lot of things, so that people are just going to look like they are intentionally avoiding these, right? So that's just a tiny little trick. Anyway guys, we're almost at the end of today's episode, so I hope you like the island project. We're going to see it in definitely like 2, maybe 3 more episodes, maybe even more. I'm not exactly sure about that at this point. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not going to promise that Aurelia is going to return next week, because to be completely honest, I'm really enjoying the Altengrad series a lot more, and I don't really have all that much time to do all this. So I'm not going to promise again that Aurelia is going to return next week, but hopefully it will. If not, I will let you guys know. Anyway, again, I hope you liked this episode, guys. If you did, then you can always put a thumbs up underneath it. Share the video with your friends if you think they might like it, and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I will see you next time. Take care, enjoy the cinematics, and goodbye.